You're watching Newsfeed. Let's still continue the discussion around the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa saying it's willing to review its recruitment criteria for electoral officers if a need arises. There's growing concern about the hiring of a large number of teachers as electoral officers. The EFF accusing the IEC of prioritising SADTU members, a claim the Commission and the Teachers Union have refuted. Let's get some legal analysis now, and Khumisi Kganare joins us now, an attorney by practice. Mr. Kganare, good morning to you, and thank you very much for your time. Let's begin with whether, to your knowledge, there is anything in law that almost binds the IEC to using teachers as electoral officers, because I think the EFF, as they have it, they're saying that they've put this question to the IEC to say, is there anything binding on you as the IEC that you employ teachers every other election, or could other people, i.e. the unemployed graduates, be used here? So is there anything in law that prescribes to the IEC that use teachers?
Thank you, Polly. No, not really. I mean, the IEC just has to go to a pool, of the society at large. Nothing really binds them, to use SADTU members, if you may, or teachers. So any member of, the society of South Africa can go and render services there. Obviously, there would be criteria that would need to be ticked off. You can't just take someone who is a criminal, for instance, or who has a criminal record. So those little things will have to be checked. But generally, anyone can go and render services to the IEC.
Let me actually go straight to the nub of the issue here. The EFF very uncomfortable about SADTU affiliated teachers, because they're saying that essentially means that the ANC is heading up some of these voting stations, and the ANC is a party in government. The IEC, I think in one of their briefings last week, stating very clearly that they do not want any politically affiliated persons to be employed as one of their officers. Again, let me put the question to you, because the SADTU says, and I spoke to them this morning, they're saying not once has the EFF ever come with a complaint to say, you see, here's a SADTU official, or here's a SADTU affiliated teacher who presided at this polling station, and these are the possible irregularities that we would have picked up. Is the EFF being unfair here?
Look, Koli, not really. Remember, in the main, this is a conflict of interest issue. And we know what conflict of interest means. If your personal interests, are highly likely to affect your judgment in a space like this one, for instance, that is a problem. One big problem that we know, raises red flags would be where senior officials in a political space also come and render these services, or, get employed for a short term or fixed term period, if you may. That we know is, if you may, per se problematic. But just with any other conflict of interest issue, it's a rule of reason issue. And if you do not raise it, at a particular stage, you can always raise it at some other stage. And I think in this situation, we are looking at, a structure where there is party liaison committees, locally and nationally. In this case, obviously, we're talking national committee, where all political parties are represented. Where these sort of issues can be ventilated, raised, and decided on. But it doesn't mean that if you do not raise it in that space, you cannot raise it later, and you cannot explore other avenues, even going to court, for instance, to challenge a decision that led to the appointment of these people that you believe are conflicted or maintained this process. And we know this is a very serious issue. The IEC, all the way from the Constitution down to national legislation, they have to give us free and fair elections, and anything that sort of jeopardizes that is a problem and must be dealt with.
And that's exactly the final question I want to come to with you, that if the EFF, because it does seem that this is a determined effort, or it's going to be a determined effort on their part, that any official within the IEC that they know for certain that this is a teacher who's affiliated to SADTU, that person is possibly going to be pushed out of that voting station. That could bring about problems. What happens if this matter does land up in a court? How jeopardized will the work of the IEC be?
Yeah, I mean, court is, if you may, would be an appropriate forum where this issue, can be dealt with, as opposed to dealing with it, at voting stations. And like I said earlier, this would be, it's mainly a question of, having to reason why this is a problem. Because, a conflict of interest, you really have to advance reasons why you say there is a conflict, and it might affect those that are conflicted in this process. So if it goes to court, look, we know processes. Either it's approached on an urgent basis, unlike where you would want to go to court, on a normal course where it will take time. If it ever has to go to court, it would have to be dealt with as a matter of urgency. And with urgent matters, we know that within a week or two, you can have a decision on the issue that needs to be resolved. So I don't see it affecting the process. It can be resolved very quickly if it's dealt with on an urgent basis, because to me it would be something that really qualifies to be dealt with in that manner.
Attorney Khumisi Kganare, thank you very much for your analysis of this situation, giving us a possible legal perspective on what appears to be a brewing fight between the IEC and the EFF. All right, let's